Okay, grade nines. Hello, grade nines. This is the grade nine people in the house, in the Hizicals. Guys, what's happening at school? What's happening at school at the moment? I'm, you know, what is this? Smart study from YouTube. There are no people on YouTube. On TikTok, less than a second, people are there. Hey, but what's happening on YouTube? Yeah, man, that's funny. Yeah, look, TikTok is the one. It's the place. It's where people are sort of like activity is a buzz. Always the case. So yes, grade nines. I hope you are here. The funny thing is, no, I wasn't live there. I think it was just what you might call I just uploaded a video there, but it was premiered. Yeah, it's a video. I uploaded on YouTube for the grade 11s. It's a question on exponents. It's like where there's division and multiplication of numerical bases. So where there's division and multiplication only. I reckon that around about this time, if grade 11s are starting off the syllabus at school, then they're probably there. And because I'm ahead, maybe what I'll do is I'll just upload one or two videos every once in a while on YouTube, just so that like I can also breathe life into what they are doing currently at school. But yeah, besides that, guys, grade nines, I hope you are here. What's been funny for me, very, very funny, is that most of you apparently have been writing baseline tests at school. And with your writing of baseline tests, I've seen many messages coming in, like whether it's on the comment section, whether it's like someone inboxing me and saying to me, yo, sir, we wrote the same baseline test. If only I had seen it earlier. All those comments. And I'm like thinking to myself, I don't understand. How is it that you guys could have been writing the same baseline test? How many people in this live session have written baseline tests and they've written the same baseline test that is similar to the ones that I uploaded? Because I uploaded those baseline tests obviously a few weeks back. Like I mean it was way back. I think probably 2 weeks. Those baseline tests have had 2 weeks on having been uploaded. So how many people have written a baseline test and it was similar to the ones that I had uploaded? Because I uploaded grade 9, grade 10, grade 11 and grade 12 baseline tests. And if you guys remember, most of you were supposed to have written those baseline tests that day when I uploaded them, which was a few weeks back. And then I had subsequently posted the memos so that you guys could mark yourself and check how you had done in those baseline tests. Now the funny thing is for me is to then hear you guys say that, hey sir, I wrote the baseline test and it was the same test as you, the one that you uploaded. And I'm like, Haibo, how does that work? Hi, that is very funny. Okay, so yeah. And I think now most of you are thinking to yourself, yeah, okay, so that means this channel is always posting tests that we are about to write. And I want to tell you now, that is not the case. If the coincidence happens that you write a similar test that I upload, it's just coincidence, guys. It's coincidence. It's as simple as that. It's coincidence. Don't think that my channel is a place where you can basically find tests that you will write at your schools. No, that's not the case, all right? Though it seems like in most cases there are situations where even last year when the grade 8s and 9s were writing their final exam, all I did was upload past exam papers onto the platform, and I would upload the memos later on. So most of the grade 8s and 9s used to say to me, yo sir, I wrote the very same exam, the same paper 1, the same paper 2. That does not mean that will always be the case, guys, because like I said, sometimes I guess your teachers decide to, what you might call, the name is, they decide to recycle and they expose you to the same papers. That does not mean that it will always be the case. So, and what I want to then obviously communicate through that is that it still does not take you away from the responsibility to prepare. You must prepare for tests. Do not just think to yourself, I'll just go to the page, Maths is a Game, and they will upload the test that I'm going to write. No, that is not the case. I am simply uploading previous assessments that have been written, and if your teachers decide to recycle those assessments and present them as the test for this year, that is their choice. Okay, yeah. But it's good to practice previous papers, especially if you're about to write a test or an exam. And I do make it my priority to actually upload as many as I possibly can on the platform so that you guys can practice, right? Because when you practice maths, it becomes easier. So that's something I want you guys to note then. So those who were able to write and they wrote the same assessment and they had written it before, well, that was just sheer coincidence. And I hope then you did justice and that the marks do reflect. But think about it. If some of you were able to be exposed to these baseline tests, you wrote them, but then you do badly at school, then that means there is a serious issue there. Okay, and I just want you guys to just note that. I'm not uploading papers that will be written. I'm simply uploading papers that have been written, and they are there for your practice. Okay. But grade 9s, welcome. It's really nice to have some of you. I can see Umini there. I can see Mini with very familiar face. What other familiar faces are actually here? People that have been joining in the live sessions. It would be nice for you to comment with the relevant emoji in the comment section so that I can see. I see Lesejo is here as well. I guess the regulars. Okay. I see you there, Lesejo. Correct says, hi, finally got grade 9. So I'm guessing you have been wanting to be in a session with us grade 9. Can I just get an indication at school with the grade 9s that are here? What are you guys busy with at the moment? If you can just comment in the comment section, what are you busy with? Are we all currently, have we all started with the syllabus? Is it on full swing? Are we all in the midst of doing like whole numbers, learning about numbers, the real number system? Okay, I see Lesejo says the real number system, which is sweet. Hopefully it's kind of like, it's flowing. I hope it's flowing, Lesejo, the real number system for you. I hope it's flowing, especially considering that you have had the chance of actually doing real number system. I'm hoping it's flowing and there's no problem. There are no issues. Okay, which is what I want to hear, because I mean you have literally been with me since the beginning. Mini says I'm starting next week. Why only next week are we starting? Mini is Princess, it was like a revision. Okay, no, that's good. Okay, now guys, I'm not here to actually do whole numbers, number system and all of that stuff. I am continuing, or I am proceeding with where we left off. Okay, and those who have been with me in the journey, okay, will know that I've already covered number systems. And we actually even did activities, quite a couple of activities around number systems, okay? So those who may probably want to actually get exposed to the lessons that we covered on number systems and all of that stuff, you guys are more than welcome to go to my YouTube channel, Maths is a Game. There is a playlist there, a grade 9 playlist of the live sessions that I've done. You're more than welcome to check those out, and you can check what it is that we did, okay? There were even things that I explored besides just looking at the various types of numbers, like natural numbers, whole numbers, integers, rational and irrational numbers. But we also looked at other things like how to convert, a terminating and a recurring decimal into a rational number. And also we looked at like irrational numbers, how to place rational numbers in light of integers, and other things as well. So you guys can check that out. It's in my YouTube channel. I will not be going over or rehashing what we have done before. Okay, and then so now currently, because what we had done previously was in the line of we completed ratio, we completed rate, and then we had started with financial maths. So we started with financial maths and we did simple interest, okay, and we did activities on simple interest. And so today I'm actually about to actually continue then from where we had left off, and I'm going to do compound interest. Lina, you want the grade 8 baseline assessment. I see you are commenting with just grade 8 baseline assessment. Okay. I'm going to try and upload a grade 8 baseline assessment during the course of today. You just have to be very patient with me. Okay. But I'll try and upload a grade 8 baseline assessment. Just an example of one. But that does not mean that baseline assessment is the one you'll write at school. Please understand me. That's just an example. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Correct. I really appreciate your comment there. I think people that actually come into my channel, they tend to really be demanding. Yeah. And it is a service, and I really appreciate that you acknowledge it as such, because it's me serving. And there's no one here in this platform that is actually taking money and giving it to me so that I can actually do what I'm doing. So if there's time delays, if there's me explaining certain things so that there can be clarity for other people, it's because that needs to happen. And unless that happens, starting is just a disservice to everyone, and it actually departs from what I actually want to do. Okay, so let's get right into what I want to do then today. So like I said, today we're gonna look at a financial maths. We are continuing from where I had left off from my previous live session, and we are looking at financial mathematics. And of course, this may not be suiting many people that are here, because if you started off the syllabus at school, you are busy with real number systems, and the real number systems, obviously, like I said, if you want to check out the content on real number system, I already covered it in a previous live session. You can go to my YouTube channel, Maths is a Game. There's a bio link in my bio. You can go and click on it. It will send you there. Go to my grade 9 playlist. You will see there is a lesson there on real number system. At the beginning, the grade 9 and the grade 10 sort of like content for real number system is the same, so I combined and merged the sessions for grade 9 and 10. So you may see there being on the thumbnail itself the topic saying grade 9 /10 as well, because I included the grade 10s when I actually did that session. So it's accommodative of both grades. And then at some point we depart, and grade 9 becomes exclusive to grade 10. So just check that out. Okay. Motebango Wabatu. I actually did grade 10 yesterday. I had a session with grade 10 yesterday. Okay, and I make it a point to upload those sessions on my YouTube channel, so you can always check those out when I do eventually upload them. Okay, let's get straight into it. So financial mathematics. So today we're going to look at a type of interest that we call compound interest, right? Compound interest. Last time we looked at simple interest. Today we're going to look at compound interest. So yeah, so if we look at compound interest in grade 9, I think it is for the first time that we get exposed, because in grade 8 we get exposed to simple interest, and we know that simple interest is always calculated on the original amount. Okay, so that is always the case for simple interest. But then when you get into compound interest becomes a little bit more compound or complex, if you want. And there we are talking about interest on interest. Okay, and I'll explain just shortly what I mean by that. as I get into it. Okay. So financial mathematics, very crucial, not only just for the sake of just financial mathematics being a topic in maths, but it's also important because as people that are going to eventually get into the workforce, you are going to be dealing with money. And when you are dealing with money, it's so important to know sort of like how to go about dealing with it. Some people have a good relationship with money, some people have a very bad relationship with money. Okay. So this is it. If interest is calculated on the original amount, or let us say on the original some amount plus the interest already earned, okay, what's happening? The blurriness of the camera screen. So if interest is calculated on the original amount sum plus the interest already earned, then it is called compound interest. Lina, I've already told you that I'll be uploading that baseline test. Now it feels like you're spamming me. Okay. Feels like you're spamming me because you're repeating the same message over and over again in my comment section. So I will upload. Don't worry. Okay. So if interest is calculated on the original amount sum plus the interest already earned, then it is called compound interest. Okay. And I'm just going to give like a typical example here. So let's say, for instance, you invested 100 Rand, right? At the beginning, 100 Rand. So you take 100 Rand, let's say you decide to invest it, and let's say your bank of choice is Absa Bank. Okay. And then as you invest that amount, they say to you, you know what? Interest rate per annum, which we will add every year, and that is annually, is going to be 10%. So our interest rate that we are going to be adding to this beautiful amount of yours, and annually means every year, is 10%. So what you want to do then is to find out what is 10% of 100 Rand. Okay, so let's just check what is 10% of 100 Rand. So we take 100 Rand, we multiply it by 10 over 100. Okay, so this is just on the side, guys. I just want us to kind of understand the logic behind what it says when they say if interest is calculated on the original amount sum plus the interest already earned, then it is called compound interest. So like I said, you take 100 Rand, you are going to invest it, let's say at your bank of choice, Absa, and the Absa says we are going to add an interest rate of 10% compounded annually. So if it's compounded annually, this is what we mean, all right? Meaning they're going to add 10% every year. But here's the thing, guys. Here's the thing. So you, for the first year, right, what's going to happen is that at the beginning, you take your 100 Rand, okay, then we're going to check what's 10% of 100, okay? 10% of 100 is 10 rand. Okay, so that means after year 1, you are going to have how much in your bank in total? Okay, you invested 100 rand. 10% of 100 rand is 10 rand. So after year 1, you are going to have how much in your account? You are going to have 110 rand. Okay, because we've just calculated how much is 10% of 100 rand. It's 10 rand, right? Plus the invested amount, which is 100 rand. So after 1 year, you now have how much? 110 rand. Okay, then what happens, because this is compound interest, in the second year, all right, we are going to take that 110 rand, which you basically were able to register, at the end of year 1. You take that 110 rand, and remember, what was the interest rate percentage? It was what? 10%. Okay, how did I get 110 rand? Remember, meaning you invested. So this is the amount that you put in the bank. You put in 100 rand in the bank, right? Now we want to calculate what is 10% of 100 rand. Okay, what is 10% of 100 rand? 10% of 100 rand is 10 rand. Okay, so that means on top of the 100 rand that you invested, the bank basically gives you 10 rand more. Why? Because they are basically going to give you interest, which is 10% per annum, compounded annually. Okay, so over that 12-month period, which is a year, all right, because the bank is saying they are going to add that 10% every year, not every month, but every year, because this is a annual arrangement. It is a yearly arrangement. Okay, so that 100 rand that you invest at the beginning, okay, over that year, when the year ends, the amount of money that you will have in total will be 110 rand. Where do we get this 110 rand? It was the 100 rand that you invested, together with the 10% of that 100 rand, which is 10 rand. You add that together, you have 110 rand at the end of that year. Okay, so that is the interest that the bank will have added to your 100 rand, seeing as though they said that they are going to give you 10% per annum, compounded annually. Okay, and this is the thing. They say they are going to actually add that interest. How? They are going to add it yearly. Okay, so that's what annually means. Annually means that they are going to be adding 10% every year. Okay, now since it's compound interest and it's not simple interest, what happens is that when year 2 begins, what you forward now in year 2, the bank now has your 110 rand. But because it's compound interest, we are going to check what is 10%, not of the original 100 rand, but we are going to ask what is 10% of 110 rand. Are you with me? We are going to check what is 10% of the sum amount. Okay, so that's why they are saying if interest is calculated on the original amount sum plus the interest already earned, then it is called compound interest. Okay, so when year 2 begins, we take that 110 rand. Okay, we check what is 10% of 110. Then you'd have to go to your calculator and just check what is 10% of 110. And we're just going to wait for someone to actually give me that amount. What is 10% of 110? What do you guys get is 10% of 110? %, guys, of 110. So it's 110 times 10 over 100. definitely cannot be 120 the amount. What is 10% of 110? All right, so we have what? 11 rand. Okay, so that means at the end of year 2, all right, we are going to take that 110 rand and add how much? 11 rand. Now you have how much at the end of year 2? You have 121. Okay, I hope you guys can see what is the trend that we are basically taking when we are dealing with compound interest calculations. Okay, so in essence, what I'm trying to say is, every time we are calculating the interest based on the new amount that we get at the end of the year. So what are you anticipating if we go into the third year? We are going to take that 121 rand and check out what is the interest. Okay, how much is 10% of 121 rand? And then you need to tell me what that amount is. We take that amount, we add it onto the 121 rand. So yes, thank you so much. It's 12 rand 10 cents, right? Yes, 12 rand 10 cents. So then obviously at the end of year 3, we are going to take 121 rand plus the 12 rand 10 cents, and that will give us the amount at the end of year 3. Okay, which I'm sure you guys can clearly see is 133 rand 10 cents. Okay, so compound interest, okay, practically speaking, this is how we deal with compound interest. It would have been a different story if we were talking about simple interest. Practically speaking, simple interest is always calculated on the original amount. All right. And what we mean by that, if we were dealing with a case of simple interest, take the same scenario, right? You have, let's say, who invests 100 rand, and let's say the bank concerned, which let's say is Absa, and this is like, obviously, theoretically speaking, this is made up, says we are going to give, let's say, 10% simple interest, 10% per annum simple interest. Okay, so they say 100 rand. Okay, you're gonna invest 100 rand, you want to invest it through Absa, and they say we are going to give you an interest rate of 10% per annum. But now it's not compound, but it is simple interest. Okay, now that definition of simple interest is different from compound interest. Simple interest, whenever we are calculating that interest rate, we always calculate it based on the original amount. So this is how it would look like with compound interest. Year number 1, pretty much you could say, we still say, what is 10% of 100? Now, what is 10% of 100, guys? I'm sure you know it is 10 rand. So at the end of year 1, how much do we have in our bank account? We have 110 rand. Okay, and I'm sure if you look at year number 1 of compound interest, and you look at year number 1 of simple interest, we pretty much are starting off in the same level if the interest is added every year. Let us look now at the second year where simple interest is concerned. With simple interest, do you know what question we are asking ourselves? Even though we had 110 rand made at the end of year 1, we are still asking the very same question. What is 10% of what? Of 100 rand. We are still asking that same question. What is 10% of the original amount that you invested? Okay, so with simple interest, it's not interest on interest, but it's more of like we are still asking about what is 10% of the original amount. Okay, you remember with compound interest, we took the amount that had been made at the end of year one, and we would ask ourselves, what is 10% of that amount? So there's an increase here, exponentially, if you ask me, with compound interest. But look at simple interest. Simple interest, it's like we are constantly growing, but we are growing at a linear rate. All right. So basically, what's 10%? We know what 10% is. It's 10 Rand. So it's like year on year, what we are doing is we are simply adding how much? 10 Rand. We are simply adding how much? 10 Rand. And obviously, that would give us how much money at the end of year two? 120. But look at compound interest. At the end of year two, we had a slightly bigger amount, which is 121 Rand. Okay. Here we are adding 10 Rand every single year because we are always calculating our interest based on the original amount. So year three, we are still going to ask, what is 10% of 100 where simple interest is concerned? Okay. So me giving you these examples, guys, it's just for us to understand the definition of simple interest. Simple interest calculated always on the original amount, okay? But compound interest is calculated on that original amount plus the interest already earned. That's how you go about calculating compound interest, okay? So once again, for Bonolo, okay, we were looking at simple interest. Simple interest is always calculated based on the original amount. We had invested 100 Rand at a certain financial institution at 10% per annum simple interest. What does that mean? It just simply means that because it's simple interest and interest is calculated based on the original amount, we take 100 Rand and we ask ourselves, what's 10% of 100 Rand? We get 10 Rand. So that means this is the amount of money you would have made in that year. So we take the 10 Rand, we add it to the original amount, we get 110 Rand. In the next year, we are still asking the same question. Based on the original amount, what is 10% of 100 Rand? We get 10 Rand. But this 10 Rand, we are going to add onto the first year end amount, which is 110 Rand. So we take 110 Rand, we add the 10 Rand, we get 120. Okay. Can you guys anticipate what will be the amount at the end of year three for simple interest? Can someone let me know what they think will be the end amount for year three if we are dealing with simple interest? Can you guys see already what the end amount will be? Thank you very much, Bonolo and Craig. That's definitely true. Why? Because we're still going to be asking the same question. What is 10% of what? Of 100 Rand. Still, we add 10 Rand. So this is constant growth that we are experiencing with simple interest. That's why they usually say that simple interest has a linear constant growth. Whereas compound interest, on the other hand, has like this exponential, sort of like growth. Okay, it's like a growth curve that is exponential. Simple interest is of that nature, but compound interest is exponential growth curve. Whereas with simple interest, it's very linear. The growth is constant. Okay, yeah. But I'm sure you can see with compound interest, you see at the end of year one, okay, the interest rate based on the original amount was 100. But then year two, when we start year two, we do not calculate based on the original amount for compound interest. We calculate the interest rate based on the sum amount. So we check 110. What's 10% of 110? We get 11 Rand. We add that 11 Rand to the sum amount. So 110 plus 11, we get 121 Rand. I'm sure you can see that at the end of year two, if you are dealing with compound interest growth compared to simple interest growth, you can see the amount here is 121 Rand. This one is 120. Slightly higher, hey, at the end of year two. But you can see at the beginning, we start off sort of like in the same amount. The end of year two, you can see here, compound interest has a slightly higher amount than simple interest. And I'm sure you can see as well, look at year three. slightly higher amount in compound interest, and you guys said the third year amount here would be 130 rand, and you can see that is slightly a higher amount. So compound interest is the way to go, right? And that is why most, in fact, all financial institutions, okay, subscribe to compound interest, okay? And therefore, okay, if you are someone who is in the business of growing money, you know, and investing money is something quite good, especially if the interest rate that you are basically utilizing is a high interest rate. So, you know, yeah, I'm sure as you guys grow and become adults and you start making your own money, and you are someone who's interested in actually making sure that you build wealth and all of that stuff, then I mean, it would be quite important to you to utilize this knowledge that you are getting, more than just doing maths problems and getting them right and all of those things. Okay, it's very important for you to be able to understand the concept behind this, and then obviously utilize it in the future to be able to secure your own financial future. It's very important. Okay, the knowledge and the information here is not designed just for us to plug into problems, get problems right and all of that stuff, but more than anything else, we need to be able to solve the life problems we'll experience in the future. And like I said, some of us, we're coming from homes where bad financial decisions have been made, right? And because of that, we find ourselves like in very bad financial situations. So we need to then turn the tide, and we need to make healthy decisions based on what? On knowledge, right? We have this knowledge that we now have. We know about compound interest, we know about simple interest. Just to quickly answer you, simple interest is interest that is calculated on the original amount. All the time, it's calculated on the original amount, nothing else. So if you invest 100 rand, and like I said in this example, you've been given by the institution an interest rate of 10% per annum, and it's simple interest, meaning the interest is added every year. We need to first find out what is 10% of 100 rand. 10% of 100 rand is 10 rand, which means every year this financial institution will be adding 100 rand to your account. So at the end of year one, we add the interest, which is 10 rand, we have 110 rand. Remember, we had 100 rand when we started, but now at the end of year one, we have 110 rand. In the next year, you know, the interest will always be calculated still on that original amount. So we are still checking what is 10% of 100 rand. It is still 10 rand. And therefore, basically what we are going to do is that on top of this 110 rand, we are going to add the 10 rand and get at the end of year 2, 120 rand. Remember, you started off with your 100 rand that you invested, but now at the end of year 2, you have 120 rand, okay? Again, when we do year 3, we are still asking ourselves, what is 10% of that 100 rand that you had originally invested? And then you are adding 10 rand again. So at the end of year 3, you have 130 rand. So simple interest is interest that is calculated on the original amount. That is what simple interest is. It is interest that is calculated on the original amount. Compound interest, on the other hand, is interest that is calculated on the new amount. Okay? It is on the original amount added to that the interest that you have already earned. That's why, for instance, if you check how we go about looking at the scenario of compound interest, you had 100 rand that you invested. It was at 10% per annum, but it was compounded annually. So you are checking first at the beginning, what is 10% of 100, which is fine. You get 10 rand. You add 10 rand to the 100 rand you invested, you have 110 rand at the end of year 1. The minute you move on to the next year, we are not going to say what is 10% of 100, the original amount. No. We take the original amount plus what was added, and we ask ourselves, what is 10% of 110 rand? You see? So slightly higher amount for your interest. You're making 11 rand in the following year. So we add that 11 rand to the 110 rand. We have 121 rand. Same thing with the next year. you are not going to be asking what is 10% of 100 rand. No, you are going to be asking what is 10% of the amount made at the end of the previous year. You calculate 10% of that amount, you get 12 rand, 10 rand, then you take that 12 rand, 10 rand, you go and add it to the previous year's amount, and you're getting a slightly higher amount at the end of year 3 for compound interest. So compound interest is interest that is calculated on the new amount, or the accumulated amount from the previous year, which is very important if it's annually. If we are making that money annually, meaning every year we are adding interest for this particular concept or of compound interest. Okay, so I hope that's clear for all of us. Now guys, that basically is just me trying to help you understand the concept of compound interest and simple interest. But remember, today we were not here to do simple interest, we were here to do compound interest. So I want to then now introduce you to a formula that is used to calculate various amounts based on compound interest. So this is a formula that is utilized for compound interest scenarios. So the formula is A is equal to P 1 plus I, but then there is an exponent to the power n. So this is a formula used in compound interest scenarios. Okay, formula used in compound interest scenarios. A is equal to P brackets 1 plus I, close the brackets, to the power n. Now I'm going to unpack what the A, the P, the I, and the N actually mean. Okay, so just be patient with me and I'll tell you what they mean. A. Does anyone know what A stands for? Okay. Yeah, so let's check if there's knowledge that people have before I just give. You know, let's interrogate the knowledge people have. Yeah, Tebi says A stands for annual. Okay, no, not really. Lunga says money invested. Okay. A is not the money invested. Tuto says annual. No. Mini says amount, I guess. Yes, it is an amount, but what amount? A is the final amount. Very true. Okay, so here when we're talking about A, we are talking about the accumulated amount. This is like what you would refer to as your future value, the amount you envision at the end, the amount that basically you get eventually. It's like after a number of years. Okay, so future value, this is like the amount after a number of years or months, or call it what you want, however basically long you will say the investment will go on for. Or sometimes in some cases some people borrow amounts of money and compound interest is factored in. Okay, so this is the amount, the accumulated amount. We also refer to it as the future value. It's the amount that you get after a number of years, or they usually say after n periods. And I'm guessing that will help us actually unpack what n means. Okay, so after, okay, it's a future amount, and if you're talking about the future, it means some time needs to pass by, right? So it's like a amount that we will see at the end. Okay, that's A. P is the P is the initial value used or invested. I like that. Yes, Mini, the original amount. I love that too. Final amount? No. P is what we refer to as the present value. Okay? Present value. Very important. Present value. Okay? And I like that someone said the original amount. It's like the amount at the beginning. Okay? It's the amount at the beginning. Yes, I love it too. I love that word. Principal amount. Principal amount. Okay? Yeah. So that's another word that we use. Principal amount. I think the spelling may be, yeah. Then, yeah, I'm not an English teacher, guys. Then N, what about N? So yes, guys, P is the principal amount. It's like the original amount, the amount invested if you are talking about an investment, but it's also the amount borrowed if you are talking about a loan, okay? Because compound interest can be looked in two ways. You can either look at it from the perspective of someone borrowing money, which is like a loan, or you can look at it from the perspective of someone investing money, which is an investment. N, very true. Yeah, N is the time period, right? But ideally, we like representing that time period in years, the number of years. Very true. Okay, you guys have said it very well. Okay, time taken for the interest to be accumulated. I even like that. I am not tired. It's beautifully well said. Okay, number of years, time period, right? Yes, we like representing N in years. R, so remember what R is, or what R stands for, or in fact, let's not say R, let's say I, because I is in the formula. Then I'll tap into something else. What does the I stand for? This is grade 9. Yeah, but a grade 10 learner wouldn't lose anything by listening to this, because they do this as well. And a grade 11 learner does this as well. And a grade 12 learner does this as well. Okay, and I want you guys to tell me more than just that. Okay, I see you say interest rate, but I want you to tell me more. Interest rate expressed as what? This is important for me to know. I specifically. I is the interest rate expressed as a okay, Mini, not as a percentage. If it's I, it's not the interest rate as a percentage. It's the interest rate as a decimal number. Okay, please, people, very important. It's the decimal number. But usually, we have R, okay? And remember, I think I did mention to you that the way we go about converting I so that it is a decimal, we use I is equal to R over 100. This R here means the interest rate as a percentage. So two crucial important things here. When you have I is the interest rate as a decimal number. R, on the other hand, is the interest rate as a percentage. Okay, so usually when we want to convert R, which is usually the case, we get given R, the interest rate as a percentage. If we want to convert that to a decimal number, we take the R and we divide it by 100. Okay, and then we get the interest rate as a what? As I, which is the interest rate as a decimal number. Okay. Yeah. If we have that understood, guys, because this formula speaks to that. If we understand the variables of the formula and we understand what they mean, it makes it easier for us to actually read a scenario and interpret it and then be able to do correct calculations. Okay? So let's look at an example then so that we can explore this beautiful narrative. And guys, when you do a calculation, okay, please make it a point that you observe these things. Minnie, you like featuring in the stories, eh? Okay. Minnie invests 18,000 rand. Minnie seems to have a lot of money, eh? For 6 years. At 15% per annum, compounded annually. Find the value of his, okay, let's just change it here, of her investment. I hope I'm using the right pronoun there. I could get into trouble. After 6 years. And for this question, they also want the interest received. Okay, so let me go back a bit. Minnie invests 18,000 rand for 6 years. Right? 6 beautiful years at 15% per annum. Please, people, please take into your heart and your soul this amount. 18,000 rand. Do you have it? Do you want it? Are you going to have it in the future? Okay, it's a huge amount, right? Yeah. 18,000 rand for 6 years. At what? At 15% per annum. So 15% per annum. Okay, remember 15% per annum, meaning per annum means PA means per annum, and per annum means per year, every year. It's just a sort of like a financial way of saying every year. And then they're saying compounded annually. So interest is added yearly, but in a compounding fashion, right? Not a simple interest fashion, but a compound interest fashion. Find the value of her investment after 6 years. That's one question. They want us to find the value of her investment after 6 years. And additionally, they want us to find out the interest that she received. So 2 things here. Want the value of the investment after 6 years and the interest received. Now, step number 1, before you even do anything, remember that in exams and tests, you will not be given the question, all right? So for instance, we know we're doing compound interest, right? And people naturally will know that, the formula we're supposed to use is compound interest. But in a test and an exam, you may not be able to pick that up unless you read through the scenario. So careful reading of the scenario will help you determine what formula should be utilized. All right? Yeah. And those who were with me in my session when I did simple interest, I just want to, for the interest and the sake of those who are here, we did eventually arrive at an understanding that this here is the formula that is usually utilized in simple interest scenarios. Okay, A is equal to P 1 plus I times N. So the N is multiplied to the I for simple interest, whereas for compound interest, the 1 plus the I exclusively is in the bracket and the N is raised as an exponent outside the bracket. All right, so these are 2 formulas and they are different. Very similar in certain aspects, but extremely different, obviously. And so when we know the scenario we are dealing with, then we can choose the appropriate formula. Are you with me? That's how we will know, when we know the scenario. So we know that here we are dealing with compound. Why? Because we are told that 15% per annum compounded annually. So we know that this formula is a no-go zone, because this deals with simple interest. But the go zone formula is this formula. So step number 1, identify and record what is in scenario. So let's identify and record what is in the scenario, because that's step number 1 of how we approach this question. I know some people go ahead and they just substitute and do what and all of that, but please, let's go through the scenario and identify what we have. So it says Minnie invests 18,000 Rand for 6 years. Seems like here Minnie is beginning something. This amount is the amount at the beginning, the invested amount, the original amount. So this is what? APION. Let's see in the comment section. 18,000 Rand, is that APION? R$18,000, the amount that we invest, the beginning amount. All right, so I hope all of us understand that, as we had explained, said A is the accumulated amount, a future value amount, the amount after a number of years. That is A. P is the present value, the original amount at the beginning. Okay, so here we have the, as the majority has said, we have P. For how many years? For 6 years. What is this? 6 years is our yes, N value. Thank you so much. At 15% per annum. What is this 15%? It is the okay, those who have ears to see know that this is actually R. It is not the I value, it is the R value. Because remember, what did we say? We said interest rate as a percentage is R. But obviously, for the formula's sake, we are going to have to get that R to become I. And in order to do this, that we know that we are going to take the percentage and divide it by 100. So this is the R value. Those who have eyes to see and who are very specific and particular will identify this as R. Okay, yes, very important. Okay, remember, this is the minute you see percent like that means that is R. Remember, the percentage can be maybe 15.5, but if there's percent, then you know this is R. Okay, that's very important to note. The minute there's a percent in the mix, then that means that is R. Compounded annually. Find the value of her investment. So what do we want after 6 years? What are we looking for? Okay, we are looking for A. So that's why you then record. I personally like doing this before I even write down the formula. Write down A and I'll write the question mark. That's what I want. P is 18,000 Rand. It makes for order. Very nice. N is obviously 6 years. And then my I, which is equal to R over 100. You see that? I substitute. Percentage was what? 15 over 100. And then I quickly write down and express the decimal. 0.15. There it is, guys, the actual decimal, which is I, the interest rate. Okay, expressed as a decimal without percentage. Okay, because I've converted it. Now I have everything prepared and ready to go. Because I know the scenario, step number 2, write down formula. Okay, write it down before you substitute. Write it down so that you see it. And don't make a mistake and write the simple interest formula, because it's not the simple interest formula that we are obviously dealing with because the scenario is compounded. Okay, it's compound interest. Then step number 3, substitute. Substitute in formula what's there. Okay, this makes for order, guys. Okay, so now A we know, A we don't know yet. P is 18,000 rand, so we substitute 18,000 rand. 1 plus the I, we've already calculated the I, it's 0.15, so we can just plug that in. The N is 6. And then after that, what do? You grab your infamous calculator and you shoot for the answer. I'm trying to grab mine. It's far away somewhere. But I guess I'm gonna be depending on you guys now to tell me what the answer is there, because my calculator is very far. So what do you guys get? 18,000 rand to 1 plus 0.15 to the power 6. Oh no, seems like we are calculatorless here. You got 200, what is it? 20,000, 205,031 cents. Okay, let's see if everybody is getting the same. So you took 18,000 rand, you open brackets, you put 1 plus 0.15, you close the brackets, and you raise it to the power 6, and you got that amount. Okay, I'm gonna wait for other people to respond before I say yes or no. Hopefully you can double check that for me quickly and just check if it really is that amount. Okay, Tuto gets a different amount. So does Lesego, and Lesego has a sad face there. And let me just say that punching things into your calculator correctly sometimes is the deal breaker here. If it's incorrect, the typing in the calculator, then it makes things, go wrong. So we need to double check. After you have punched in 18,000, you put the brackets 1 plus 0.15, you close the brackets to the power 6. Just verify again before you even press equal. Verify again and just check if you have written down in your calculator, or you've punched into your calculator exactly what is represented on your paper. You don't want to be getting things off or wrong because you punched in things wrong. Okay, I see. Thank you so much, Mini. I see you placed the order wrong. Okay, that's fine. So do we then all agree that our amount is 41,635 rand 9 cents? That is basically the amount after 6 years. You see, Mini, putting that 18,000 rand away for that period, Mini did exercise some wisdom here. Okay, and then the last question there is, they asked, what is the interest received? Okay, now in order to get the interest received, we want the interest that he received. In other words, how much did Mini earn? So we take the accumulated amount and we subtract the principal amount. Remember, Mini had 18,000 Rand when he started off the investment. And obviously, after that 6-year period, the total amount that is in her banking account is 41,635 Rand 9 cents. That is basically the financial institution that she invested in has that amount now in total. So that's what we refer to as the what happened to investment after the 6-year period. Now we want to know what is the interest that has been received. So in order to do that, we need to take the accumulated amount and we need to subtract the principal amount. So that's how we calculate the interest that a Mini has received. And I hope it kind of is also common sense that we would actually take the accumulated amount and subtract the principal amount in order to calculate the interest received. So that gives us an amount of, thank you so much, you guys are 100% correct. Okay, all right guys, that basically is that example. And all right, that is right. So I'm going to hold it right there for today. Okay, and I'm gonna give you guys just a game challenge. Compound interest basically is not done there. There are obviously other scenarios that we have to look at, because we've just looked at one dimension, that is calculating the value of A and then finding the interest received. There are situations where we have to actually calculate the value of P, but we've been given a final amount. And there are cases where we have to calculate the interest rate, where we've been given a final amount and the initial amount. So we'll be looking at those at another time. I do want to just limit what we've done today to this, and then give you game challenge problems so that you guys can do that. Then when we convene next time, we will look at other scenarios. Okay, so question says find the final amount. Yeah. This is grade 9. Find the amount